You do not have a discipline problem, you have an overstimulation problem, and no amount of willpower has ever fixed a nervous system you keep flooding. Here is the strange part. What a research lab measured this decade, a group of monks in the desert wrote down before the fall of Rome. After hundreds of hours reading both the brain science and the ancient Christian tradition, I keep arriving at the same place. The modern mind and the ancient cure describe each other almost perfectly. Picture your mind as a pool of water. Every alert, every feed, every quick glance at your phone is a stone dropped into that pool. Drop them fast enough and the surface never stops rippling, the mud never settles, and you cannot see the bottom or your own reflection. That is your attention right now. And before you can pray, focus, or hear anything underneath the noise, the water has to go still. One honest word before we go further. This is not medical advice. And if your restlessness runs into real anxiety or compulsion, please talk with a doctor, a pastor, or a counselor. There is no shame in that. By the end of this, you will know the one shift your brain has been waiting for, and it is not the one you would guess. But before any of that lands, I have to show you why the thing you keep trying has been quietly failing you. Here is the fix everyone sells you. More willpower. Grit your teeth, run a dopamine detox, delete the app for a weekend, and it never holds. Why? Because willpower treats the symptom while the cause keeps pouring in. You are not weak, you are flooded. Consider how fast the water is moving now. Researchers who track attention on screens found that the average person once held focus on a single screen for about 2.5 minutes back in 2004. Today, that number has fallen to roughly 47 seconds, a figure tracked across 2 decades and since confirmed by others using the same logging methods. Your attention is not broken. It has been trained on purpose to expect a fresh hit of novelty every 47 seconds, and that training leaves a mark. A study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2009 looked at heavy media multitaskers, the people juggling many streams at once, and found they were measurably worse at filtering out distraction than lighter users. The more you flood the pool, the less your brain can tell a stone from the water. That churning even has a home in the brain. There is a quiet inner network, the brain's autopilot, the channel it runs when you drift into worry about yourself. Overstimulation keeps that channel spinning, which is why a scattered mind and an anxious mind so often arrive together. If this is landing, subscribe and tell me in the comments the one thing that pulls your attention most, because it genuinely helps this channel reach the people who need it. So here is the honest turn. Neuroscience is brilliant at naming this problem. It can measure the ripples in the pool down to the millisecond, but measuring a storm has never once calmed it. The science describes the disease. The cure was written somewhere else, a long time ago. Open the first book of Kings, chapter 19. The prophet Elijah is worn down to nothing, and God passes by. Not in the wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire. God comes in what scripture calls a sound of sheer silence. Read that again. The voice you are desperate to hear does not shout over your noise. It waits underneath it for the water to go still. In the book of Isaiah, chapter 30, the promise is almost blunt. In quietness and trust is your strength, not in speed, not in more input. In stillness, now watch the two languages become one. In Psalm 131, the writer says he has calmed and quieted his soul, like a small child resting against its mother, no longer restless, no longer demanding. That is the sediment settling. What the psalmist did on purpose is what a controlled study can now see on a scan. When researchers had people take a 90-minute walk in nature, published again in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2015, that quiet, unstimulated time lowered the churning, self-focused worry and calmed the very brain activity tied to it. Name it spiritually or name it clinically, it is the same event. The stones stop and the water clears. The ancient church did not stumble onto this. A monk named John Cassian, writing in the early 5th century, carried into the West an older desert, teaching about the restless, agitated boredom that attacked monks in the middle of the day. The tradition called it the noonday demon, a phrase drawn from Psalm 91, the pull to get up, move, do anything but stay still. 1500 years before the endless scroll, he mapped the exact itch you feel reaching for your phone. and a monk named Isaac the Syrian, writing in the 7th century, said something the research keeps confirming. Silence, he wrote, is a mystery of the age to come. These men were not running from the world, they were running an experiment in stillness, and they left us the protocol. So here is that protocol, 8 practices the ancient church tested for centuries, each one now with a study behind it. One warning first, the order matters. If you skip the subtraction and jump straight to adding new habits, you're only dropping fresh stones in a pool you never let settle. You start by emptying, not filling. 1. Silence. This is the foundation, the water going still. Even brief, unstimulated quiet is linked to changes in the brain's memory center. In one study in the journal Brain Structure and Function in 2013, 2 hours of silence a day was associated with new cell growth in that region in mice. What you do? Sit in real silence, no input, for a few minutes daily. 2. Fixed rhythm. The monks lived by a set daily order of prayer, so their day ran on a rhythm instead of reacting to every ping. Your brain calms when the next moment is predictable. What you do? Set 2 or 3 fixed anchor points in your day that never move. 3. Breath prayer. The desert tradition paired a short, repeated prayer with slow breathing. A review of studies in the journal Neuroscience and Biobehavioral Reviews in 2022 found that slow breathing, around 6 breaths a minute, reliably shifted the body toward its rest and recover state. What you do? Breathe slowly and pray one short line again and again. 4. Fasting. The monks fasted from food. Fasting from food has been linked to the brain producing more of its own growth and repair signals, and the ancient logic invites you to fast from input the same way. What you do? Choose one daily window with no screens and no snacks of novelty. 5. Slow, sacred reading. Against a mind trained to skim, the ancient church read scripture slowly, one line at a time. Even short practice in focused attention helped. A study in the journal Consciousness and Cognition in 2010 found that just 4 days of it improved people's ability to sustain focus. What you do? Read a few verses slowly, returning to the same words. 6. Guarding what you look at. The monastic tradition called it custody of the eyes, simple control over your inputs. Every glance is a stone, and the brain's wanting chemical, dopamine, trains you toward whatever you keep feeding it. What you do? Remove one visual trigger you reach for on reflex. 7. Solitude. The Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, records Jesus telling his exhausted followers to come away to a deserted place and rest a while. That deserted place is the still pool. What you do? Take short, deliberate time completely alone, without a screen. 8. Rest. The command to keep one day of rest, a Sabbath, simply means to cease, to stop. One full stop a week lets the whole pool settle. What you do? Protect a block of genuine rest every week. If even one of these is landing, subscribe so the next practice finds you when you need it. So what does this look like in an ordinary week? Start small and stack gently. Each morning, a few minutes of pure silence before you touch your phone. Once during the day, slow breathing with one short prayer. One screen-free window at the same time daily. A few verses read slowly instead of scrolled. And one protected day or even one afternoon of real rest. That is it. You are not adding pressure. You are removing stones. Here is the deeper thing. Scripture calls it quietness and trust. Neuroscience calls it a nervous system returning to rest and a churning mind going still. They are describing the same moment. The stillness you keep chasing is not a luxury for people with easier lives. It is the ground your whole inner life is meant to stand on. So hear this. You are not broken and you are not too far gone. Your attention was trained, which means it can be retrained by practice and by grace. If this gave you even one thing worth keeping, type the word still in the comments so I know it reached you, then share it with one person whose mind feels as loud as yours has felt. There is more of this waiting on the channel. Still the water and you will finally see what was always resting at the bottom.